In the 8th circle of Abyssos Savage, players face off against Hephaistos. This encounter is broken up into two distinct phases, a door boss and a final boss. In this video we'll cover the former. We assign the party clock positions, with supports on cardinals and DPS intercardinal, as well as 2 light party groups and 4 pairs of 1 support and 1 DPS. Genesis of Flame is a high damage magic Raidwide. Immediately after the first Raidwide, Hephaistos will cast his first Telegraph cast. The name of this 3-second cast will tell players how to resolve a future mechanic, and is used multiple times throughout the fight, so players should make a mental note. Conceptual Octaflare indicates that the party must spread later, as all 8 players will be targeted with circle AoEs, while Conceptual Tetraflare indicates that either 4 DPS or 4 supports will be targeted with rather small shared stack AoEs. This cast will give Hephaistos the Conceptual Mastery buff, indicating he has an attack stored for later. Volcanic Torches will cause 4 torches to appear on the arena floor and begin tracing various tiles to indicate where the attack will hit. For this mechanic, we divide the arena into 4 quadrants, with supports moving counterclockwise to find the DPS they will share their quadrant with. Each pair will have 1 safe tile inside of their quadrant. Sometimes these safe spots are mirrored, and often they are not, so each pair will have to practice awareness. An easy way to solve this mechanic while learning is to watch the outside edge of your quadrant. If an outside edge is never traced by a torch, you know that will be the safe tile. If the outside edge of all 3 of your outer quadrant tiles is traced, only the inside tile will be left as a potential safe spot. While you are identifying the safe spot, Hephaistos will summon either a Phoenix or a Serpent as he begins casting Sunforge. The Phoenix and Serpent each have distinct sounds. This is useful for identifying which variant you will deal with while focusing on other mechanics. A Phoenix telegraphs that the outer thirds of the arena from north to south will be hit with column AoEs, while a Serpent telegraphs that the inner third of the arena from north to south will be hit with a column AoE. After dodging the Volcanic Torches AoE, we positioned to resolve the Sunforge AoE and telegraphed Conceptual Flare cast from the start of the fight. Some combination of spreads or pairs, and in or out. Flameviper is a 2-hit magic Tankbuster that hits very hard, cleaves in a column pattern, inflicts magic vulnerability up, and tops everything off with a very potent 15-second bleed. This Tankbuster won't return for about 4 minutes, so we mitigate these busters heavily, with the off-tank provoking during the cast to take the second hit, before the main tank provokes back to avoid the off-tank dying to the magic auto attacks. When Hephaistos casts his first Reforged Reflection, we enter a forking branch in the fight. After this cast, there will be one of 2 potential phases that plays out, determined by whether Hephaistos grows 4 massive legs and a tail, indicating the Centaur phase will begin, or grows a massive Colubrine right arm, indicating the Gorgon phase will begin. If the Centaur phase is first, then Gorgon will be the second phase, and vice versa. Regardless of which form it may ultimately be, I suggest pressing Arm's Length or Surecast 100% of the time, as soon as the Reforged Reflection cast is over. If it is Centaur form, this will soon prevent a knockback, and if it is Gorgon form, our knockback immunity will be back up by when we need it again. Upon seeing that Hephaistos is entering Centaur form, we immediately move into clock positions on the outside of the boss's hitbox, with one of our healers occupying the center. Upon completing his transformation, Hephaistos hits the raid with Footprint, dealing light damage and hitting all players with a radial knockback from center. This knockback is survivable without immunity by knocking from the center to a corner. Rearing Rampage will hit the party with a series of 4 Raidwide AoEs. Each of these 4 Raidwides will be accompanied by 2 Uplift Circle AoEs that inflict Earth Resistance down. Players will need to identify whether they are hit by the first, second, third, or fourth uplifts to resolve an upcoming mechanic. When the Stomp Dead cast begins, we immediately move the first uplift players northwest outside of the boss's hitbox, the second uplift players dead center inside the hitbox, with the third and fourth uplift players on the boss's left flank, between the 2 target rings. Stomp Dead will target the farthest player with a proximity-baited shared stack AoE that must be shared by 2 players to avoid a potent dot. This deals physical earth damage and hits very hard, so mitigate accordingly. The boss should first jump to the 1s, whose vulnerability has just fallen off. As soon as the boss jumps to the 1s and 3s will trade places. If positioned properly, the boss will next jump to the 2s to share the second stack, at which point the 2s and 4s trade places. The boss will then jump to the 3s, and finally the 4s, and the mechanic is resolved. Following Stomp Dead, Hephaistos will return to his original form, and the intermission phase will begin. Illusory Creation will summon clones of Hephaistos on the 4 cardinals before Creation on command causes 2 adjacent clones to summon a Phoenix and a Serpent, creating 2 safe spots at either north and south or east and west. Find the clone with the bird and move to the 2 safe spots in line with it, spreading towards your numbers from Volcanic Torch, with melee close to the boss and ranged far. Manifold Flames will hit either all DPS or all supports with a circle AoE that inflicts magic vulnerability up. These 4 players will adjust to cardinals around Hephaistos while the remaining 4 players move into the boss's hitbox to resolve 4 proximity-baited column AoEs on the intercardinals. Immediately after Manifold Flames, the 2 remaining clones will begin to telegraph either 2 birds, indicating that the center of the arena will be safe, or 2 serpents, indicating the 4 corners of the arena will be safe. Hephaistos will then cast either Nest of Flamevipers, indicating a spread mechanic, or Tetraflare, indicating a pair stack mechanic. Another set of Volcanic Torches will appear, this set being much easier to resolve than the first. For this mechanic, we will always be looking at southwest to find the safe spot. 2 torches will arrive at the edge of the southwestmost tile, and how they move from here indicates the safe spot. If both torches turn away from each other, the safe spot is southwest. If the 2 torches move into each other and meet at the corner, the safe spot is northeast, directly opposite where the lines meet. If the 2 lines turn left, the safe spot is to your right, and vice versa. Position accordingly and prepare to mitigate another Genesis of Flame. After some auto attacks, the intermission phase ends. Hephaistos will teleport center and cast his second Reforged Reflection, entering whichever phase he didn't enter after the first Reforged Reflection. When you see Hephaistos growing a massive Colubrine right arm, move out of his hitbox to avoid the snaking kick point-blank circle AoE at the end of his transformation. The boss will next cast Gorgomanteia, giving all 8 party members 2 debuffs. 4 players each will have a blue first in line or a pink second in line, and 4 players each will have either Eye of the Gorgon or Blood of the Gorgon. The 1s and 2s tell us which set of Gorgons we are dealing with. Eye of the Gorgon, on the other hand, shoots a petrifying cone in the direction the player is facing when it wears off, while Blood of the Gorgon causes the player to explode in a circle AoE when it expires. Into the Shadows will feature a lengthy animation of Hephaistos depositing Gorgons underground, after which 2 gaze icons will appear and begin traveling around the arena. These 2 gazes will ultimately settle on either 2 cardinals or 2 intercardinals, and can be adjacent or opposite. Upon arriving at their destination, the Gorgons surface from underground, petrifying any player with line of sight on them with petrifaction. It is possible to anticipate the spawn points of the Gorgons based on how they move around the outside of the arena, allowing us to position facing a direction that allows us to keep uptime on Hephaistos. Be aware that the petrifaction goes off about 2 seconds after the eye stops moving. It is the ultimate debate. Immediately after petrifaction resolves, these Gorgons need to be dealt with. They will immediately begin casting Gorgonian when they spawn, inflicting incredibly heavy damage and damage down to all players hit. DPSing them isn't much use either, so the plan instead is to use the first set of petrified debuffs, which will conveniently resolve 3 seconds after petrifaction, to stun the Gorgons, before using the first set of circle AoE debuffs to kill the stunned Gorgons. The only issue is deciding which player stuns or kills which Gorgon. We determine this priority by having Light Party 1 start at northwest and go counterclockwise until they have a Gorgon, while Light Party 2 starts at north and goes clockwise until they have a Gorgon. There is a possibility that both the ranged and melee DPS in the same Light Party have the same pair of debuffs, in which case we have the melee DPS in both Light Parties swap groups to fix the issue. The supports do the same if a tank and healer in the same Light Party have a matching pair of debuffs. The tanks swap their Light Party priority. Using this system, we petrify the 2 Gorgons with Eye of the Gorgon before killing them with Blood of the Gorgon. Immediately after Blood of the Gorgon, 2 more adds will spawn and cast Petrifaction, before the second in line Eyes and Bloods resolve to deal with this second pair of adds. After the Gorgon adds are dealt with, Hephaistos casts Ektothermos, another magic raid-wide AoE, before returning to his original form. If you saw Gorgons first, then the first intermission will now begin, and if you saw Centaur first, then we move into the second intermission. After some auto attacks, Hephaistos will once again cast either Conceptual Tetraflare or Conceptual Octaflare. This is a telegraph cast for what we will do at the very end of this mechanic, so make a mental note and hold on to it. Fourfold Fires will summon 4 proximity AoEs in the corners of the arena. Players should stack center and mitigate accordingly. After the proximity AoEs resolve, 4 fountains will appear that players should avoid standing in. Chthonic Vent will then have 2 random fountains begin bubbling and erupting. These are going to explode as massive circle AoEs, giving us either a 1/3 of the arena safe spot, or 2 opposite corner safe spots. To resolve later steps of the mechanic and ensure that healers don't get separated from other players, we always have Light Party 1 prefer the western corners, and Light Party 2 prefer the eastern corners if 2 opposite fountains are going to explode. After the first explosions, a Serpent will burst out of each fountain and travel to another fountain, telegraphing that those 2 will blow up next. Hephaistos will cast either Octaflare or Tetraflare at this time, indicating either a spread or pair stack that will resolve immediately after the second explosions. If the safe spots are corners, we go to our Light Party corners and stack in pairs of melee and ranged, or spread in a diamond-like configuration. If the safe spot is 1/3 of the arena, we have fixed spread positions relative to facing the boss, use the masks on the arena floor to help with melee positioning, or once again stack in pairs of melee and ranged. While resolving the flares, observe the Serpents traveling for a 3rd fountain explosion, and position accordingly to dodge the AoEs. While the 3rd explosions resolve, Hephaistos has cast another Sunforge, once again telegraphing either a safe middle column or 2 safe side columns. As this Sunforge resolves, the mechanic Telegraph before Fourfold Fires will resolve, either pair stacks or spread. We resolve this with the same positioning we used at the start of the fight. This is followed with another set of Flameviper Tankbusters. We will have to deal with a 3rd set of Flamevipers in about 80 seconds, so plan your mitigation accordingly. After some auto attacks, Hephaistos will re-center and begin his 3rd cast of Reforged Reflection, prompting the start of either the Centaur II or Gorgon II phase, depending on which you saw first in the encounter. Centaur II will begin with the knockback as the first Centaur phase did, so once again use knockback immunity after the cast. After transforming, Hephaistos will face either the north or south cardinal, before casting either Quadrupedal Crush, a massive point-blank circle AoE, or Quadrupedal Impact, a radial knockback. Position behind the boss to dodge Crush, or move in front to survive the long-distance knockback, and make your way forward to the boss. Hephaistos will cast either Conceptual Tetraflare, indicating pair stacks later, or Conceptual Diflare, indicating light party stacks later. Blazing Footfalls is a sequence of knockbacks and AoEs that will telegraph during the long cast, before all resolving back to back at the end of the cast while the boss is untargetable. The first step will always be a vertical knockback from Hephaistos' starting point. Being inside the center column of this knockback is lethal, so use the black lines on the arena floor to knock back safely. The first knockback will be followed by the telegraphed flares from earlier, so position accordingly in 4 pair stacks or 2 light parties when positioning for this knockback. The second telegraph will be either a radial knockback or a massive point-blank circle AoE at west or east. If the second telegraph is a knockback, take the first knockback towards this second one, while if the second telegraph is a point-blank AoE, take the first knockback away. Third will always be a horizontal knockback. Once again, use the black lines on the arena floor to ensure you aren't killed by the center column. The fourth and final telegraph will be either a point-blank circle AoE or a radial knockback, whichever we didn't see in step 2. Once again, you will take the column knockback towards the radial knockback, or away from the point-blank. After the Blazing Footfalls cast, we stay in place after the first knockback to resolve our flares. While resolving the remaining mechanics, Volcanic Torches begin tracing the ground. The west or eastmost column will always be the safe spot, so watch which direction the torches turn during the horizontal column knockback and dodge away from them. After the torches resolve, Hephaistos will become targetable again, before transforming back into his original form, and recentering to cast another pair of Flameviper Tankbusters. Hephaistos will cast his final Reforged Reflection, and the last remaining variant of this cast is Gorgon II. Like the first Gorgons, we begin this phase by moving out of the box's hitbox to dodge the snaking kick point blank. Hephaistos will once again cast Gorgomanteia, giving all party members both eye and blood of the Gorgon debuffs. One role will have fast eye and slow blood, indicated by their debuff timers, while the other role has fast blood and slow eye. 2 players of one role will also have Crown of the Gorgon, indicated by this orange circle debuff, while 2 players of the other role will have Breath of the Gorgon, indicated by this purple debuff. Hephaistos once again casts Into the Shadows, depositing 4 Gorgons into the ground. This time all 4 Gorgons will telegraph at once, ultimately spawning on the 4 cardinals, or 4 intercardinals. 4 clones will also appear around the outer edge of the arena, indicating that all of the outside tiles will soon be unsafe. We begin this mechanic by spreading to fixed positions around Hephaistos, in the center of the rectangles made by the black and white lines on the ground. When the Gorgons stop rotating, if they stop cardinal, we face the nearest intercardinals looking outward to dodge petrifaction. Likewise, if the Gorgons stop intercardinal, we face the nearest cardinal. Just as Petrifaction resolves, the 4 outer clones will strike the outside of the arena with Gorgospit column AoEs. Immediately after Petrifaction, we have the Fast Eyes petrify their nearest Gorgon, while the Fast Bloods stay in place to avoid hitting any Gorgons. 5 seconds later, the Slow Eyes again petrify the nearest Gorgon, while the Slow Bloods stay in place to avoid killing any Gorgons. As the slow debuffs resolve, another clone will appear on the outside of the arena and target a row of Gorgons with Gorgospit, which will kill those 2 Gorgons. This will leave 2 final Gorgons, which are crucial to resolving the last part of this mechanic. Like before, we have Light Party 1 start at northwest and rotate counterclockwise to find their Gorgon, while Light Party 2 starts at north and rotates clockwise to find theirs. When the Crown of the Gorgon debuff expires, it will petrify all players hit, and it can only be dodged by having a Gorgon between the Crown player and the rest of the raid. When the Breath of the Gorgon debuff expires, the affected player will resolve a shared damage stack AoE that will kill any Gorgons hit. We divide into our light parties in position so that the crowns are towards the outside of the arena by their Gorgon, with the remaining 3 players in each party on the inside of the arena by their Gorgon. Like the first Gorgomanteia, if 2 supports or DPS in the same light party have both of the crowns or both of the breaths, we have the melees swap their light party priority to ensure that 1 crown and 1 breath ends up at each Gorgon. Hephaistos will cast a final Genesis of Flame Raidwide AoE, followed by 2 auto attacks, before becoming untargetable and enraging if his health has not been lowered beneath 50%. If his health is lowered in time, a transition cutscene will play, and the raid will move on to the final boss of the raid tier.